All right, so we have a challenge here. It's going to be a little bit extra challenging because I'm going to include a hint of something we haven't covered yet. So I want you to sort of work through it and see if you can understand it. Now let's look at our user.js file. We have this get codename method here that's actually using a confirm dialog. And we're going to find out if you are in fact a testing god yet. Hopefully you are. If not though, maybe you're a scrub skipping tests in his best friend's ride. I don't know. But the confirm we're going to spy on. But if you've ever worked with confirm, this is one of those items that actually is expecting an input. And so our test can go ahead and tell it, hey, when we hit this, return true. When we hit this, return false. Because our unit tests, if you've noticed, haven't been any user interaction. And that's how they are designed to be. So go and use a spy and test the method get codename fully. So you want to test both scenarios. You're going to need to use the spy on and to have called with matcher. And in order to return the value, try and follow this example here that I have laid out. Were you able to do it? If not, that's quite a bit of setup, and that's okay. So I have our describe get codename. And in our it, we have two test cases that we really want to test. So let's start there before we do anything. The first one is that we want to test that is coding God when confirmed. And we'll do our range. We'll do our act. Do our assert. And you may be getting frustrated at this point saying, Dylan, why don't you just set this up for me instead of doing this in challenges? Because I want you to get frustrated because it means you're learning and we're covering it again and again. So embrace the frustration. So what are we going to do? Well, if you remember earlier, we're going to spy on our window object. And in this case, we're going to spy on confirm. This isn't going to be enough because we want to test both scenarios. So you can do some chaining here. There's actually some items where you can now join things. So we'll have our and we'll return the value. What value do you want to return? Well, if they are coding God, we want when it hits our spy, when it hits right here, or confirm, we want it to in fact say, hey, it is in fact a coding God, and so return true. So now when we get our result here, we set it equal to our model dot get codename. When we do our assertion, we're going to expect that our result is in fact to be, what do we call it? Testing God in all caps, I believe. Testing God, exclamation point. Save it, and bam, we got that. Let's go ahead and copy this over and do it one more time, except we want the opposite result here, which is the scrub when not doing testing. How about that? And instead will be false. And if we change this and save it, we'll see that it fails, right? You know, there in fact, scrub skipping test in his best friend ride is not equal to testing God. So we can see exactly where we're failing. Let's go ahead and just copy that over from our user file. Save ourselves a little bit of a headache here. Back over, throw in our expectation. But now there's one more thing that we can do. You might be saying, hey, these are two tests, everything's fully tested. I don't really think so. We can actually test what the input of this using that, if you remember earlier, to have been called with. So, because we care what they've asking, so in here, might say something along the sides of ask a user if they are a testing god. We don't need this and return value with this. I guess it doesn't matter which one it is. It could be true or false. What we're actually going to test is that our window dot confirm to have been capital H to have been called with, and complete that and paste this in here. Are you a testing god? Asking silly questions. Of course, by the end of this course. And bam, now we have three tests. We can test exactly what came into the confirm. We can test the falsely statement. We can test the truthy statement. So spies are very powerful and usually used again when dealing with third-party dependencies, things that are hard to test or that you don't have a lot of control over. One thing I wanted to point out is that your tests are only as good as your test descriptions. And as my producer and I were looking at this, I actually made a mistake, and I thought this was a good learning opportunity. My test description, even though this is a passing test right here, is actually incorrect, right? We're not expecting to get is a coding God, and you can see that by our test output. We're actually expecting is a testing God. Now, why do I bring that up? Well, oftentimes when you're writing your test descriptions, it's another aspect of clean code. It is a self-documenting type of thing. But if you write the wrong documentation, you don't know what your test is actually testing. Your unit test can become one of those items that you look at that's the true documentation for how your code is working. So you want to double check your test descriptions as you go so you're not misleading anybody.